Good afternoon, everyone. Anthony Tharp. It's 18th February 2023 at 1:18 p.m. Getting a little late start. I went for a walk. It's nice and cool. No sun, but it's still pretty nice by the water. So I'm just taking some time to do another insert. As I promised, I'd provide the viewers or anybody that has an interest in protecting this country from a failure of our judiciary or the government through corruption, then this is one of the primary cases that you could use as an example to demonstrate that it does exist, it's real, it's happening in real time, and that we have to take action and do something about it. Now I'm going to respond quickly to it was more of a question than a comment by one person who reviewed the video, one of the videos at least. I'm assuming it's the one where we're detailing the fraud and providing evidence to the JCF and Integrity Commission so that they don't have an excuse to say they don't have enough evidence to lock these people up or prosecute them. And the viewer was at 21 Main Street on YouTube. So the young lady wanted to find out who is this seeking to stand up for our collective greater good. And first of all, I just like to say I'm no hero. I'm not looking to stand up to do anything. What I'm doing is acting in a manner which I am forced to, and that's because I'm a victim, along with several of my partners, of the most outstanding crime of fraud and corruption and scamming that has taken place in Jamaica, and not only in Jamaica but stretches into the US. And based on the amount of the damages that we've suffered, which is in excess of 2 to 4 trillion US dollars, 10 major real estate developments lost or stalled, and persons losing with damaged health and all of that. So we are victims, and because we are victims, we have no choice but to stand up. And what I'm doing is I'm not holding back. I'm giving everything and letting people know I'm opening my life and what's going on, so that other Jamaicans who have the opportunity to see these videos can protect themselves from the unscrupulous nature of judges and attorneys in this country, and even politicians, because we file documents to politicians about what's going on in the court and nothing has been done. No outrage, no public statements, nothing. So we're forced to come here and make this effort by producing these videos. So again, so that's answering one of the questions. If that wasn't enough for you and you really want to understand what we're doing, which is in one of your questions, what is this criminal conspiracy matter all about? What is this criminal conspiracy matter all about? Well, if you go back and review all the videos we have there, I mean, I went as far as even doing some preparing, letting people know that we're preparing to go into court, or we're prepared to go to court, and what's involved and what we said in certain instances are we're purporting to state, just to give you a feel that this is real, this is what's happening to me, my partners, and these are the things we have to go through, and we have to go through them and prepare to go into court, because the emphasis here and the message here is that we were forced to do that because we retained attorneys who we wanted to protect our interests, but all they were interested in is collecting their money or collecting our money as retainers, and then just don't function. We've had about 10 attorneys that we've engaged. Some of them have shown up in court, some haven't. And in one instance, one attorney, after he collected X amount of retainer, substantial amount of retainer, we went to court. All he said was the judge don't like me. Next thing he was sending me a bill that the retainer was done, and that was no agreement. The guy even charged me $15,000 just to file a notice to the court that he was representing us, which is something that an attorney is not supposed to charge for. But just give you an example why we were compelled to do this, because I don't believe we're getting the representation that we needed. And based on interacting with those attorneys, including attorney from the law school, the Mona Law School, who we had to get rid of and threatened to give me back my retainer. One attorney, a prominent attorney around town, he collected our retainer, reviewed the documents, because I drafted the documents to be filed. I asked him just to review it. When he reviewed just a defense that was to be filed in the initial matter when the appeals court, he gave him a substantial retainer. When we gave him the retainer and he was supposed to follow up on doing a counterclaim, couldn't find the guy. He was all over. He was at the library, he was doing this. Next thing I heard, he was skipping to one of the islands to go work down there. I had to call him and tell him, say, listen, I'm not going to allow anybody to take my money and run again. So you either do the job or give me back my money. What he said to me was he spoke to other attorneys and they're saying they wouldn't give back the money. So I told him if it's them that have my money, they can do all of that talking, but I paid you, so you give me back my money if you're not going to represent me. So in short, rather than getting into any kind of hassle with attorneys, and attorneys who were just interested in collecting a retainer, because they were attorneys who we were referred to certain attorneys, high power law firms, and they were supposed to take the matter contingent on the damages that we had already gotten orders for. That was the agreement. As soon as we got there and met and discussed the whole thing, and everybody was hunky-dory and yeah, it's going to be good, they can do this, blah blah blah. Next thing, I'm waiting at home for a call to say they're preparing the documents. Oh, they've decided that to file the document. They want $5 million as a retainer. Now my thing is, if you sat with me and you have an agreement with me to do the matter contingent on damages, which was there, and they get a percentage of the damages, which would have been substantial, much more than $5 million, and you're going to call me say you need $5 million as a retainer as good faith, then you're telling me you don't intend to work for this matter, or you don't intend to give the best performance. You intend to just collect my $5 million, and then because the attorneys that we're up against are high-powered attorneys, well known, which I probably contacted because it was after we had meetings, they probably just plan to take your money and run and give you the worst kind of thing, and then say, oh well, you don't have a case. And so rather than going through that, I am representing myself, and I think if I wasn't, we would have lost our property and damages, substantial amounts, as we've said, that we have an undertaking from the main conspirator in this matter, Capital One, to pay all our damages. So that's what the criminal conspiracy is about. It's about us resolving issues where these people are trying to steal our property and our money and our damages, which is also property. And they have been using attorneys and corrupt judges in the court and other officers of the court to do it. So with me now putting out word for word what transpired, backed up with evidence that's in the court and affidavits, and as you know, well, I'm hoping you know that an affidavit signed and certified is evidence, and if they change their mind or they come up with something else, they would have committed perjury, which itself is a crime and prosecutable. So the evidence we provided yesterday was largely pointing to affidavits that were filed by these people that pretty much they were trying to steal, but they had contradictory information and information that confirmed that they were trying to sell our property. They were claiming the property. They had transferred title of the property to themselves, and attorneys here backed them up with those statements by coming into court saying they're representing the owners of the property, their clients, not us, and we're the true owners of the property. Then there is the issue of the development. Well, the last matter they filed about 3 different claims. Each time they lost one, they'd file another seeking the same remedies, which is again against the rules, res judicata. So the last claim they filed, when they know they couldn't succeed, and I think they're trying to milk this U.S. corporation or the estate there, not estate, a trust there, but that's my assumption. The last time now they filed another claim against me now, saying I'm trespassing on the property. So I'm here this morning to pretty much again, provide evidence to everybody, so when they hear all the nonsense going on, because it is going to come to light. Well, it's come to light now because it's out there, and thank God for 1,000 more viewers who have looked at it. And I'm asking everybody to subscribe, click that like button, and pass the thing on to other people. Put it on other platforms if you can, because ultimately what we're doing is going to protect you as a citizen of this country, or somebody who might end up in court at some point. And my mission, our mission, is to clean the court of these corrupt people and provide funding, which we've said we would provide from our damages, and the projects we're doing, $5 million to help to modernize the court with technology that will help to prevent all of this. And this is not just a one-off. The plan is to do a long-term organizational plan around the courts, because I've submitted and suggested to viewers that they start communities of individuals with an interest, so that we can collectively come up with solutions to this problem that's long-term. And some of the solutions that I'm thinking of, I've already put out there. For example, we need to make sure that we audit judges before they become judges, audit them finances, audit the cases they did before, because most of them are attorneys. And so we can now have a catalog or a flowchart of their activities prior to being appointed. And if we see a red flag, then we know don't appoint these people. But once they're appointed, then we can know if they're displaying anything that spells corruption. So that's one thing. The other is making sure we have technology that stops people from hiding files, stealing files, and letting dockets disappear to hold up the case, so that their attorneys can milk their clients, whether us or the other side. That's the goal, to drag the thing out so they could milk the litigants. And it's going to end up being on both sides, because if they drag it out, the representative attorney for the other side is going to bill their clients as well. So it's in their interest on both sides to make these things get dragged out. So I have been in a position of being in court for more than 15 years on this matter. All right? And roughly 13 years going on this matter. And because of that, I have had a lot of experience, both locally and internationally, in both Jamaica courts and US courts on the matter, because this crosses jurisdiction. It's also in the US. And we need to complete the mission here of finally closing out and getting a final order from here, so we could conclude the matter in the US. And what we find here is that the Jamaica court, with these corrupt judges and these corrupt attorneys, holding on and dragging the matter out, so that we are stalled. So we're here to fight that. So that's what this criminal conspiracy is about. And I'm going to point out to you why it's a conspiracy in this video. And you say you're in amazement. This is shocking. This is absolutely shocking in the 21st century, in a so-called democratic country, where we have the vast majority of people say they're Christians, and we have lawyers and judges doing this. That one of the institutions that we should rely on to protect us from the very people they have become. So it's shocking. And as I said, I'm going to dive into it, and just pretty much the first thing I'm going to be doing is just give a quick overview of what transpired when the matter started, so that you could follow the proceedings afterwards. And then I'm going to go into providing again with evidence, affidavits and evidence of them committing the fraud and the scamming, so that the JCF and the Integrity Commission won't be able to give us an excuse that they don't have evidence or current evidence to prosecute these people. Yesterday we dealt with the statute of limitations, that there are no statute of limitations now on any of the matters running, because we haven't gotten the final order and none of the matters, even though we've been successful in getting a judgment from the Supreme Court that we are entitled to damages, that they have no claim, nobody owes them anything, but yet we can't get our final order on damages because they're playing these games. And these are the games they play because they feel they're untouchable. The court has never been audited. The judiciary has never been audited. And so there's this culture of believing that they're untouchable. And so me criticizing them, I've received flack from judges who come in with attitude. And I told them, I'm putting out these videos, and there's no secret, because I've sent these videos before setting up my channel on YouTube. I have sent videos to these people and letters saying, this is coming. I am going to expose the fraud. And I've been notifying them for about 4 years, and they figure, well, I'm just talking. So we're done with the talking, and we want to get this mission completed. We won't fail on this mission. All right, so thanks for the questions. Please review the other videos, and when you make your comments, I'll get back to you, even if not right away, because I have a lot of stuff doing, which you can imagine, and I travel a lot to deal with this issue as well. So but I'll let you know that I'll respond to anybody making a comment. But more importantly, I'm asking everybody with an interest in this country to again play a role in making this thing go away. All right, so thank you very much on that. So I'm gonna start out first by just saying the initial matter was between Capital One, which I'm gonna say is the main conspirator, and they filed a claim against me and my partners and my business for property, and that is in Montego Bay, claiming they had an interest. And what they did, they came in claiming they were trustees for an Alexander Burnham trust out of New York. The trust really exists, we know that for true. They came in that they were trustees for the Alexander Burnham trust, and they filed under the trust. We never had any business or dealings with any trust. We bought property from the Alexander Burnham deceased estate, and legally, I'm saying this, they're two separate entities, completely separate. In fact, the trust is a legal entity, and a trust typically just holds property. The trust itself isn't out there actively doing anything, it just holds property. So the trust might have businesses in there, real estate, and those things produce should be producing revenue for the trust. But the trust is a legal entity, and because the trust itself does not do anything on its own, it has to be managed by a trustee. So Capital One claims it was a trustee for the Alexander Burnham Trust from Long Island, and then they came in and sued us under claiming they're suing under the trust, but we never did any business with the trust. We did business with the estate, and we purchased property from the estate. The transaction was closed. We were working in tandem with the contracts we had and agreements when Capital One came in. And so when they came in and we filed documents in court that we don't know anything about Capital One, that's the first we're hearing about them, the judge then, Justice Beckford, ruled in their favor. I won't go into all the details, but of course it was erroneous. So we jumped over to the appeals court. The appeals court looked at it and definitively ruled, one, the trust would not have any interest whatsoever in anything we did with the estate. They didn't have any, Capital One therefore didn't have any standing to file anything in the Jamaica courts. They couldn't dispossess us of any property because I didn't owe them anything personally, because the purchase was by a corporation. So the matter was eventually thrown out because the appeals court ruled that the matter must be dismissed because they have no claim, no standing whatsoever. When we went down to the Supreme Court for it to be dismissed, several judges there, which was the red flag to tell us that corruption was indeed well and alive in the Supreme Court. They refused to dismiss the matter and proceeded to give injunctions extending the case, allowing Capital One to hide files, and files disappeared eventually, again in 2015, it was dismissed in its entirety. And the court told them, don't file anything else. The matter has been dismissed, and therefore you can't take any other action other than file what you call it now, an appeal to the appeals court. And instead of doing that, what they did, they went ahead and filed another claim in the Supreme Court, a 2016 claim. And that claim, when they said they couldn't win that claim, or there would be no possibility of success, they withdrew the claim. And then when they withdrew that claim, and they withdrew the claim after it went in front of several judges, including Justice G Brown, who again ruled against them and told them they not only had any standing, but they had no they pretty much couldn't usurp the property or the claim from us, because we had already gotten a judgment from the appeals court, no, from the Supreme Court, and that I could represent the company. After that, then they went in and brought in an Alexis Robinson, Miles Fletcher and Gordon to say they are the ones that was retained by my company, that the court ruled that I was supposed to be the representative person dealing with the matters of damages and any other thing. So they filed another claim, which is now the final claim that's in front of the court, that it's now in front of the appeals court, that I am trespassing on the property. And what they went ahead now and did and applied for an injunction against me. And as I've said, that injunction is not only illegal but invalid, unenforceable, and frankly doesn't mean anything. They can't stop me from going on the property, and the court can hold me in contempt because it's illegal. But anyway, in court, well, it's at the appeals court, so they filed that claim again. And I don't know why when they filed it, they attempted to sell the property. And they attempted to sell the property before then, which was also illegal and fraudulent. And all of that whole scenario then is embroiled in trying to defraud us. But what it amounts to is that it's a grand conspiracy, because a conspiracy involves multiple parties working towards a common objective, and that objective is typically fraud. And this fraud is to steal property from us. So I'm just going to mention a few documents that I have a whole trunk of them here in the car. I'm hoping to run through and get through them. I'm going to start out first with yesterday I went in length about, again, the statute of limitations, and that there is no excuse for that. So I want to expose a conspiracy now and the lead conspirators. So Capital One was the lead because they filed a claim, and when they couldn't win the claim, and it's dismissed, they kept switching around the claim and putting in their employees as litigants. So the latest claim now, they use a Lauren Gallagher, as I said, and they use Capital One. They're using now a Steve Rapier, claiming Steve Rapier owns the company, which we discussed in length yesterday. Couldn't have owned, but the courts are allowing them to appear on behalf of the company. So wanted to know, to identify again and provide the viewers here with an affidavit. And if you notice, you'll see the seal from the Supreme Court. Is it the Supreme Court? Yeah, the Supreme Court. And it's from a Steve Rapier. And what this is basically saying is that Steve Rapier is confirming what we discussed yesterday, where Alexis Robinson said they own the company. Well, said the Capital One, who is a trustee for the Alexander Burnham Trust, now owns my New York company. Incidentally, I reminded, the New York company that they claim they own is not the same company that owns the property or owned the property, because we had sold and transferred ownership through a quitclaim deed, which I'll try to show you that as well. Prior to them even claiming they bought the property in October or September by some illegal order out of New York, which several judges stated was unenforceable here. No foreign court order can be enforced in Jamaica. So here, the document I just showed you it's from Steve Rapier, who is an agent for Capital One, appearing in the matter. And as I said, what Capital One has been doing is filing multiple claims, then applying for injunctions in the claims, and then the attorneys and the people in the courts below hide the files, drag out the matter for months, for years. So we've been in court for approximately 2010, about 13 years on the court matter. But we have had businesses that's been held up for a period of longer than that, because the businesses were started in 2005, and the injunctions prevented us from doing construction, where we got permits on those construction projects from 2008. So all the actions they've been taking, and the conspiracies to stop us from developing the properties, and then I know they're collecting money from the New York Trust, but trying to get money out of us as well. Illegal conversion, because they tried to sell the property and in fact entered contracts for $1.5 million with some party who we put out there and told them, they better make sure they protect themselves, because when they skip Jamaica with that $1.5 million, after they pay the local scammers their percentage or their fees, then they won't have any property and they've lost their money. In short, they would have been scammed, just like how scammers here scam people in the US. I guess Capital One figure, since Jamaica is known as the capital of scamming, which is a lie, by the way, then they're going to come in here and scam us, scam the country, because that's what they're doing. Because in the actions they've taken, in fact, is destroying the Jamaican economy by killing 10 major, what we call mega real estate projects, including several skyscrapers, which we showed yesterday as well. So when you review, if you review this video, please review the others, because it will complete the story for you. And one of our strategies, our action, we're doing these videos as well to make sure that the information is out there. It's in the clouds, it's in courts, it's on YouTube, so that they can't disappear or think if anything should happen to us, they don't have the access to the documents. It's there. Law enforcement, I'm talking. And we don't have the excuse that the Integrity Commission's DPP used yesterday about evidence and suggesting. Well, it's hearsay anyway, because I didn't hear her say it directly, but that's what was repeated, that there were questionable evidence, they couldn't validate stuff, timelines had been compromised, even though there was evidence that there was impropriety with the Prime Minister. So we don't want to have them give us that excuse. We want to conclude this matter, and we're giving them all the evidence they need. So here is Steve Rapier from Capital One, filed this thing in the courts, Supreme Court, March 5th, 2021. And I put here a note here, trapping the rat, because these people are rats. They sneak around and try to steal your stuff. And you know what rats are like. Rats and cockroaches do the same thing. As they walk all over the place, they defecate. So the very things they're stealing, they're defecating and dropping all kind of mess, which is going to hurt them, because this is one of the stuff they dropped. Affidavits. Alexis Robinson's affidavit. They drop all the mess on themselves, which is now evidence that they're committing these crimes in real time. So again, this is now ongoing, and in the appeals court, because we filed an appeal, but to remove the injunction officially, because we have projects to do and we don't have any time to play, so we want to get that dismissed and removed. Now we went to court on it, but the judge who appeared, or the panel that appeared, said, well, they wanted me to serve Alexis Robinson or Capital One or Steve Rapier, because they're claiming they own Business Ventures and Solutions. And even though Business Ventures and Solutions does not own the property, because we did a quitclaim deed in what is called a common law title. You might be more familiar with that. And so the property is named owned by Business Ventures. But these are the things you go through, and they waste your life, they waste your time unnecessarily. So the judge wanted to be, I guess, careful. I don't know why, because the evidence was in front of them, but they didn't take time to hear, because they say, since Alexis Robinson appeared again demonstrating and confirming the fraud and the conspiracy in real time, because now it's evidence in front of the court, and she appeared in front of 3 justices plus the clerks and plus whoever else was on the forum, and that's evidence of them committing the conspiracy and the fraud in real time. So everything they're doing actually aids our case and gives evidence to the fraud squad and to the Integrity Commission that they're so brazen that after evidence has been provided and rulings of the court that they don't have any interest or right in this property, they're still appearing and admitting in these affidavits that they attempted to sell the property. Okay, so alright, so this is Steve Rapier. Now, I told you I filed a number of things in the court intentionally to pull these people out, or pull these fraudsters out. So what I did when I filed this claim, I actually filed the claim Anthony Tharp as a director of the claim. Sorry, a director I'm the claimant, Anthony Tharp. I filed it in Dennis Tharp. That's my middle name, Dennis Tharp. I filed Dennis Tharp suing Business Ventures, which is my company that they stole, or claimed they stole, and fraudulently took over. So I sued Business Ventures because I wanted to use this opportunity, because I'm saying I'm going to see if they're really going to come out and go to court on this, because I'm suing the company that the court ruled I'm the legal representative and owner. And furthermore, I filed documents and affidavits in court that I not only transferred ownership, I remained the legal representative of the company by order of the court, as well as by approval of the persons who were assigned the company and all of that too. But here again, they showed up. So I sued myself technically, because the company, I was the director of the company nonetheless. So I actually sued under the name of Dennis Tharp, and I sued Business Ventures and Solutions Inc. And the director for Business Ventures and Solutions Inc., which had to be served, was Anthony Tharp. Got it? Dennis Tharp, my middle name. So I sued, Dennis Tharp sued Business Ventures, and Business Ventures has a director in there named Anthony Tharp. It's legal, by the way. So I knew the court, or somebody at the court, was going to notify them, because I didn't serve them, because when you file like that, the service processor serves the business, and since I'm the director for the business, then they serve me. So they serve me the court documents. So nothing went over to them. So nobody responded to the claim, obviously, because that was part of the plan strategy. Because in doing so, I would end up with what do you call it now, a default judgment, and enforce that default judgment against my company, Business Ventures, who I represent as the director. And so doing was now an added layer of protection against us for anybody claiming they own anything. Plus, as I said, we already stripped the company of its assets and all of that. So this was just an exercise to trap the rats, and it worked. Because somebody at the court who was hiding up the documents and refusing to enter the default judgment in the matter which we're entitled to contacted them, that's Alexis Robinson, and told them, oh, this matter is there and we applied for a default judgment. And I guess they tell them, oh, we're not doing it, we're not giving the judgment, because we're giving all kind of excuses about they can't enter a default judgment because that's going to be, it has to be entered by the judge or something, and the rule of the court says the registrar is supposed to enter default judgment. There are no rules in there that says she can't. But anyway, the trap was sprung and we caught them. And so they sent messages to the fraudsters, Alexis Robinson and John Graham possibly, because he must have known. Then they filed in the court that they were filing to say the claim was not served properly, and therefore the claim was defunct. In short, in filing it, I had to file a suit and had it served on them, which would be me now playing along with the fraud and confirming the fraud, and so by default I would have lost. So that didn't happen. So now, again, so they responded and filed, and so when they filed, the court set up a hearing on the application. Now, we've been filing for years. We filed a claim in June of 2018, and it's in March of 2021 they set an application from them, and we've been filing notices and applications from July for the entry of the default judgment, and they refused to. Again, pointing out to the level of corruption in the court, and the people there can't deny it. That's the thing, they can't deny it. So Mr. Steve Rapier, R-A-P-I-R, says so anyway, the caption is, in Supreme Court of Judicature of Jamaica, claim number 2018 HCV 02498 between Dennis Tharp, claimant, me, and Business Ventures and Solutions Defendant, Inc., defendant, me, director. Anthony, I use Anthony there. So it says, I, Steve Rapier, being duly sworn, make oath and say as follows. I am the president and sole director of the Defendant, Business Ventures and Solutions, Inc. So here it is again, Steve Rapier on an affidavit, which is evidence. And if they change the argument now, they have committed, they're in contempt of court. They're perjured themselves. They're lying. And so here's the grand lie. In 2018, May 16, 2018, Justice G Brown affirmed the fact that I am the owner and director, representative of BVNS, or the defendant's company. Because again, my joint venture partners that it was assigned to, which I still have an interest, we own that entity. So in 2018, and remember the dates, May 16, 2018, so less than a month after Justice G Brown made that ruling, in June of 2018, I filed a claim against the company, our company, the same company Justice G Brown said I legally can represent in the court proceedings. Here is Steve Rapier representing Capital One, quote unquote, the Alexander Burnham Trust, who they claim they own Business Ventures and Solutions, because Steve Rapier is an agent that works for Capital One. So hopefully you're following. But now he is saying he's the president and sole director of Business Ventures and Solutions, Inc. Boom, the fraud there. And I am duly authorized to make this affidavit on its behalf. Second, lie again, fraud again. We didn't authorize it. We didn't tell him anything. He's lying through his teeth. My address for the purpose of the affidavit is 1218 Central Avenue, Suite 100, Albany, New York, 122005 USA. Now again, yesterday I used about 3 different addresses for Business Ventures and Solutions, the one that took over in New York. Here it is now, he's using another address. Okay, I guess it's his address, but that's who he say he is, and that's where the mail would go to for Business Ventures. So 4 addresses so far for Business Ventures and Solutions, the company they defrauded and took over. And I remind you, the Magnitsky Act, where they're following the Russian mob, how they stole somebody's company, murdered the person, stole $300 and something billion. The same process and procedure. They are copying a mob, the Russian mob, and their strategy in stealing people's property. All right. So, and again, I referred you to the Magnitsky whole story, so you could look it up. It's a big story online, and just put US billionaire property stolen, and they made him disappear. So I pointed out just in this little one paragraph here, paragraph 1, the number of fraud. Now remember, we don't need but one case of fraud to prosecute for fraud. He's admitted to several right here. And the mere fact that he filed the affidavit is confirming that this is evidence. Alright, so the facts deposed in this affidavit are true insofar, and here's one of the garbages I hate in the courts, where these attorneys have people giving evidence, and of course he's saying it's true and we know it's a lie, so that's again a fraud. But this is what one clause a lot of attorneys use in court, especially in Jamaica. The facts deposed in this affidavit are true insofar as they are within my personal knowledge. So they are true as far as they're within his personal knowledge. I hear the contradiction and the ambiguity. Insofar as they are not. That's double talk. And that's what they're allowing courts here, people to double talk and tell lies. Because that's a whole lie now. Because he's saying, oh, I know it's true, but insofar as if they are not within my personal knowledge, I state that the source of the information and say that they are true to the best of my knowledge, information, and belief. So in short, if he's going to say, oh, well, somebody has told me, then you can't tell anybody that it's true because you don't know it's true. Because you're telling a lie because you're getting a third-party statement, which is hearsay. Well, here's a big old lie which the court always accepts. And I always wonder, why the heck does a court or judges sit down and accept this ambiguity here, this big old lie? Because he's saying, it's true, but just in case it's not true, it's true what I was told by somebody else, which is a lie. Anyway, that's it. That's some of the things we have to remove from the courts here to resolve some of the issues to avoid the corruption, because this is one of the tools they use. Alright? And a litigant who doesn't have an attorney or an astute attorney, because these attorneys go in there and they don't challenge this, they accept it. So what they're saying is, I'm saying it's true, but it could be a lie. And if it's a lie that somebody else told me. But I'm saying because they told me, it's true. You figure that. Rules like that allow these kind of ambiguous, fraudulent statements should not be in court or allowed or accepted by any judge in court. It's either you know or you don't know. And you can't give an affidavit which is a statement of truth coming in here with this ambiguity and telling a big old lie. So the very fact that they're supporting this lie states that we need to remove certain rules from the court or implement certain rules to ensure that corruption doesn't exist. Because by virtue of this statement alone, he's claiming he has the right to stand in court. And as I said, this is ambiguous, it's hearsay, it's a lie because he can't confirm it's true. Business Ventures and Solutions Inc., because he quotes it as BVNS, he abbreviates it, is a company incorporated under the laws of New York, USA, with its registered office at Capital Services Inc., 1218 Central Avenue, Suite 100, Albany, New York. Lie here is that, yeah, BVNS was incorporated in New York. However, BVNS was administratively dissolved by the state because we wanted it that way. They went and reinstated it. So by virtue of this statement, it's a lie because it was fraudulently reinstated. So they're going to say, oh, technically it's true because it was started in New York. Yes, but they weren't given any authorization to reinstate Business Ventures and Solutions Inc. Alright, I'm going to read on. The affidavit of service of claim form sworn on the 3rd of July 2018 and filed on the 20th of July 2018 indicates that the processor for the claimant delivered the sealed claim form along with the particulars of claim to Anthony Tharp on the 3rd of July 2018. Anthony Tharp is described in the affidavit as director of BVNS, the legal registered agent for BVNS, someone known to the processor for over 6 years. Now, all of that statement is true. Anthony Tharp is the director of BVNS, the legitimate BVNS. And even if they stole it and converted the name, it would not remove me as director. And any removal of me as director would be fraudulent. So the legal agent, so I'm saying he's raising issue with that. However, Anthony Tharpe, the brother of the claimant, see, themselves are confused. Anthony Tharpe, the brother of the claimant, which is also a lie technically, had not been a director of BVNS or authorized to represent it in any way since October 6, 2017. Now remember, on July 16, 2018, Justice D Brown authorized me to represent Business Ventures. Here he's stating a big old lie. And Anthony Tharpe, the brother of the claimant, which is also a lie, has not been a director of BVNS, or which is a lie, or authorized to represent BVNS since October 6, 2017. So again, here's a ruling that they're telling a lie because they're saying I wasn't authorized when Justice G Brown authorized me. And they said October 6, 2017. Now that date is important here because October 6 is when they allegedly took ownership of the company, BVNS, in that bogus sale using a U.S. court order, which Justice G Brown ruled was unenforceable in Jamaica. And as a matter of fact, not only did Justice D Brown state that it was unenforceable in Jamaica, but this is the clarification ruling by Justice Beswick, who gave the final. It's kind of messy. I put a lot of this is the ruling by Justice Beswick. Alright, so, and we got it certified and authenticated. That's why the Justice of the Peace thing is on there. So on this clarification on Justice Beswick states clearly, and she was addressing me thinking I was the one relying on US law, but what had happened, these people kept coming in about US law and this and that. I kept rebutting and providing evidence that it does. So this is what she says. Because of the heavy reliance which Mr. Tharpe placed on the US law and procedure applicable in New York and in Florida, which do not apply in this jurisdiction. Alright, so I just wanted to state that. Here was Justice Beswick, who gave the judgment dismissing Capital One's claim, stating that I was relying on US law and procedure, but for New York and from New York and Florida. But here she's saying, which do not apply in this jurisdiction. So, he can say the order from Justice G Brown is superseded by the order they claim they received to purchase the property which they claim they purchased on October 6, 2017. The claimant therefore wrongly served the claim form and particulars on Anthony Tharpe. That's a lie again, because we pointed out why. So the service being ineffective bring this claim to the attention of BVNS and all of its authorized officers. Alright, so again, on the 27th of February 2017, Mr. Tharpe, a former director, and they went into all kind of nonsense. But what I wanted to point out was, here was Steve Rapier, and he has a lengthy thing here, 4 pages, stating and confirming evidence that he's part and parcel of the conspiracy and stealing people's property, our property. And I pointed out yesterday, we discussed that, and now here he is confirming again that they stole the property. So in essence, what we're saying is the appeals court separated, when they made a ruling, said the trust which Capital One came under had no standing. They had no right, no claim in anything, and said the claim must be dismissed. They indicated that we had acquired property from an estate, and there was no relationship between the estate and Capital One, even though the estate was the estate of Alexander Burnham, The trust is the Alexander Burnham Trust, but they're two legally distinct things. He also pointed out that Anthony Thorpe was never liable to them for anything. Yet the court order they got from the US in these affidavits that they put out there supports that I owed $600,000, which we discussed yesterday. So again, I don't want to drag this thing out. The bottom line is that Capital One, again, I'm confirming that they committed this fraud, and we have to deal with it. And the what you call it now, the Integrity Commission and the Fraud Squad must prosecute. So there's evidence. Parties bound by orders of, okay, let me just think. Now, when they made those fraudulent representation, again, I'm going to go to section that says parties bound by a ruling of the court must be adhere to that ruling. Okay. I'm looking for an order here that says, or the rule. I'll find it, that they're bound by the court. But in any case, scope of Rule 43.1. This part deals generally with enforcement of judgment and orders, which is what we're working towards and they're fighting us. In this part, and in part 44 to 53, judgment creditor means us. Means a person who is entitled to enforce a judgment or order, and judgment debtor, which is Capital One, means a person who is liable to enforcement under the judgment or order, even though the judgment or order is not a money judgment, or our thing is a money judgment though. And the procedure for beginning enforcement rule. So the general rule is that once a judgment or order has been enforced, the court must issue an enforcement order if the judgment creditor files the appropriate form of request, which we did. The judgment creditor must provide with the request the judgment or order which the judgment creditor seeks to enforce, which we did. So again, pointing out that we've been following the rules, we've been doing everything that we're supposed to do, and yet the court and the justices are playing these games. So in closing, I guess I won't drag it out because I think that should pretty much give you a comprehensive idea of what's going on overall. If you have need for me to go into more details about any questions you have on any matter pertaining to this, we do have it. We have a list of undisputed facts and evidence in the matter that we have cataloged. This is a 2-pager with more than more than 24 itemized and cataloged undisputable facts that these people violated, and that was in front of the court and the judges that have heard this matter and keep ruling on behalf of Capital and keep ignoring. All right, we presented already the ruling of Justice Beswick in previous matters that dismissed the claim, so that's it. And we showed you the ruling. Oh, okay, today I have the certified, perfected order from Justice G Brown, which I showed the handwritten document yesterday, and this now provides you with the authenticated document, so nobody can say again, oh, we presented the handwritten document. Anybody could have done that. Here is the perfected document from the court with the seal of the court and a certification saying this is a true copy. Again, the evidence that the court needs, not the court, the police needs to prosecute these people. All right, so that's that. Just run through what we have. Oh, this is a document an email from my trustee in Florida that worked with these people, conspired with these people, and to steal the property. And because he was paid $55,000, which should have come to my estate, which ended up in his pocket. I haven't seen a penny of it. But this is Michael Bass that we talked about yesterday, and here's what he says, and it points to the story about the US law thing again. I wrote to him and I said, I have a claim in the US court which I filed, because you have to report everything when you file a bankruptcy, and I filed it to stop these people from pursuing the matters that were in the Jamaica court. So I filed to him and said, guess what, we have a claim there, these people owe us a ton of money, need you to go collect it for us, which he should do if he's trustee. But here's what he says, and it's true. If I am a defendant in a matter, which I was because they sued me, Capital One sued me in Jamaica, the trustee doesn't have any jurisdiction, or the US court doesn't have any jurisdiction. So any rules or laws that come out of the US court relating to property that's involved in a lawsuit that I'm a defendant, they have no jurisdiction. But here we have Capital One in Jamaica, after all the things were filed, claiming the property. It says, Mr. Thorpe, it says from trustee Basque, or Basque's trustee, and it's dated Thursday, May 4th, 2017, 11:10 a.m. and it's CC'd to a Gilda Green, Basque's trustee, subject Anthony Thorpe, or Thorpe Anthony. Mr. Thorpe, I have received your email of today. In the future, please direct my emails to me. I will try to respond in the same number of paragraphs as in yours. And why he did that was because everything I'm sending to these people, like when I file to the court here in Jamaica, I send it to the JCF, I send it all over the place to other people. What I did with him, I sent it to the US trustee's office in Florida, in Miami, and in Atlanta, and several other parties. I didn't just send it to him. So he's saying, oh, send it to his email and he'll respond. And his response was, any interest held by you in any litigation as a plaintiff is property of your bankruptcy estate. So in short, if I was a person filing a claim against Capital One, then he would have jurisdiction to handle the matter for me. And as I said yesterday, he used that ploy to stop me from going after certain actions the Capital One had done in Florida, claiming he didn't see any interest in going out filing anything, or I couldn't file it. So see the double play. So he's saying he can't represent because he has no jurisdiction. As to your interest as a defendant, that is you and you alone. So in short, because you're a defendant, guess what, you're on your own. That's you and you alone. I have nothing to do with it. The court has no jurisdiction. Further, as to any interest of any entity other than yourself, only you are in bankruptcy and not any separate business entity. So here, they're using the bankruptcy court to steal business ventures and solutions through fraud. And here's the trustee who helped them to facilitate the theft using a fraudulent procured sales order from the court, saying if the property wasn't in bankruptcy, I filed a personal bankruptcy, the property wasn't filed, so the property don't have anything to do with the bankruptcy or them. They don't have jurisdiction to have even made that order. So again, providing the JCF. So not only can they go after the Jamaican attorneys, but they can go after this little crook here, Michael Bass, and the judge himself, because both of them knew that what they filed in Florida was fraudulent, because the courts ruled in Jamaica that I owed no money to Capital One. Capital One filed, I owed them $600,000, which is what they used as the ploy to steal the company. All right, so there we are. And again, as I said, my goal now is to show to you that not only the fraud, but the conspirators, expose the conspiracy that's going on. Alright, at the top you should see the Supreme Court. Alright, that's That's an order from the Supreme Court. Supreme Court. Out of Jamaica, Florida. Friday, July 22nd, 2016. Case number SC16-1305. Or docket number, some people say. Law Tribunal number S4D15-2417 colon 50-2011 CA 001782 4 X's MB. Anthony Thorpe versus Capital Bank N.A. I filed a suit against them because of what they were doing in Jamaica to haul them into U.S. jurisdiction. And I also wanted to make sure that the orders we got from the Jamaica courts, that they were entitled to damages, that they could now, after we got the final order, which is what we're trying to get, go back to the US, they would run up and come and say, oh, this Jamaica rule from that court has nothing to do with the US, which is a game they wanted to play upon. I'm playing, but this defeats that. Because we can domesticate the ruling from Jamaica once we get the final order. Hence the reason why they're fighting not to give us the order, using these judges as a ploy and distraction. And it says the petitioner's respondent. So Anthony Thorpe petitioner, and I filed an appeal to the Supreme Court of Florida. And having determined that this court is without jurisdiction, this case is hereby dismissed and they cite a case. No motion for rehearing or reinstatement will be entertained by the court. John A. Tomasino, Tomasano, Clerk, Supreme Court. So here's the Supreme Court of Florida saying the Supreme Court of Florida, which is the highest court in Florida, don't have any jurisdiction. Now the federal court, the bankruptcy court is a federal court, but the federal court is bound by the orders of the state court in these matters. And if you don't trust me, you can go check it yourself. But here again, a Supreme Court of Florida is saying that these people have no jurisdiction over what's taking place in this matter in the Jamaica courts. All right. So there goes evidence of the conspiracy on that whole matter again. And therefore, I'm ending it here. Because again, you could look up conspiracy. A conspiracy is when two or more people work together to defraud other people or take action against other persons and their, typically their property, which is what's happening here. We've listed the attorneys in Jamaica, we've listed the people in Florida, and we have more than 2 attorneys in Jamaica. We have 2 attorneys and the judges. So the conspiracy is a matter of fact. So again, the fraud squad considers the conspiracy, and the Integrity Commission considers a conspiracy, and we have the evidence to back it up. So I want to thank you again. Make your comments. I really want to engage us in a productive conversation where we see results, because as the viewer asks a question, basically, what is this conspiracy about? It's not about just declaring the conspiracy, it's about coming up with solutions. My goal is to prevent this from happening in the future, so that it doesn't affect not only you, but you have kids coming up, you have relatives that live in Jamaica, you might have business there, you might do business there, you might buy property there, and you don't want this to befall you. And plus, if we have a system where people are scared of putting their money in Jamaica, it's going to ruin Jamaica long term. So I'm going to thank you again. Please subscribe, hit that like button, and please share it amongst everybody, other platforms. Just encourage them to go there and make that difference, because we can do this. All right, thanks, and have a great Saturday, and enjoy your weekend generally. And hopefully I'll go home and take a look at some of the videos on what's going on and comment tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye.